you don't like what is being said, change the conversation.
Hey guys, how you doing? So this is a quick one coming out here to you. This is about Ken Smith. He's an Alabama prison resident, and he's about to be put to the chambers to pay his debt to society. Anyway, guys, this first time Alabama has completed the penalty stage on someone in a long time because it has been such a mess. They had problems with their chemicals or whatever they use to put you to sleep, to the eternal sleep. Anyway, let's go over this real quick. This is happening tomorrow, January 25th. Okay. So here's some of the controversy behind this. I want to know what you guys think in the chat. Okay. Put something down, please. If you just put down I don't know, just put down a wedge of cheese. Maybe the broken baker will see it. He'll get excited. He'll smell it. He's like a mouse. United Nations experts, not me, raise alarm over Alabama nitrogen execution. So let's see here. They're going to get this guy Whippets. Death row inmate Kenneth Smith set to be executed by nitrogen hypoxia. Please excuse the color commentary in the background. No state has used this method of execution before. The UN says it could subject Smith to torture and cruel, inhumane treatment. Well, maybe they'll tell us also what this fine fellow did here to face this penalty. A panel of United Nations experts is appealing to federal and state authorities in the U.S. and Alabama and the U.S. and Alabama to stop a nitrogen hypoxia execution, as they say it may subject the death row inmate to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or even torture. I'm glad that we paid dues to the UN, aren't you? Because this is what they sit around and do. I mean, how would you like your job? Be like, hey, let's talk about this guy. They're not talking about you or me, but they care about this guy here. Experts in the state, I take offense to that. In a statement, said that they were concerned about the possibilities of grave suffering and pure nitrogen inhalation might cause Kenneth Smith, who is scheduled to be executed in January 25th in Alabama. Nitrogen hypoxia has been authorized as an execution method in Alabama, Oklahoma, and Mississippi, though no state has used it yet. Smith, who is one of two men convicted in the 1988 murder for hire of a preacher's wife. Now, those of y'all that don't know, Steve Gosney, a friend of mine, wrote a book called The Death Penalty Debates. I think you ought to go check that out. You definitely need to check out Steve's channel. But anyway, he brings up a lot of questions about the death penalty. My thing has always been that it takes too long. It's not worth it. It's a see instead of this has become a political matter now, and it doesn't need to be. What happened was heinous, and it's we are in a society where we feel that this is just punishment. In 1988 murder trial for a preacher's wife, prosecutors said Smith and another man were each paid $1,000 to kill Elizabeth Dorleen Sennett on behalf of her husband, who was in debt and wanted to collect on insurance. Can you imagine that your spouse thinking to themselves, I just offed you. I could pay for my Escalade. Although a jury voted 11-1 to give him life in prison without parole, the judge overrode its recommendation. AL.com reports and sentenced Smith to death. In 2022, the Alabama Department of Corrections tried executing Smith by lethal injection, but authorities were not able to connect the required two intravenous lines to him. That's interesting, right? However, the next year, the state Supreme Court, in a 6-2 decision, said that the state can execute an inmate with nitrogen gas. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall, according to the Associated Press, said at the time the ruling had cleared the way for executions by nitrogen hypoxia after Sennett's family waited an unconscionable 35 years to see justice served. I mean, a lot of the people that were affected by this aren't even alive anymore. It's so. I think this is a. Well, it's not my role to say what I think about this. Advocacy groups, it's your role to in the comments, please. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up for me. Advocacy groups and lawyers are representing death row inmates criticize the decision, saying the execution method is experimental and the state did not give enough information about how it is going to work. Well, it's experimental. We got to test it. Smith's attorney had asked the state Supreme Court to reject the nitrogen hypoxia execution request, arguing that Smith should not be a test subject for the new execution method. Um, okay. UN experts warned in the UN in their statement that experimental executions by gas asphyxiation, such as nitrogen hypoxia, will likely violate the prohibition on torture and other cruel, inhumane, or degrading punishment. Nitrogen, which makes up 78% of the air humans breathe, hmm, is harmless when inhaled with proper oxygen levels. The AP writes that under proposed procedures, a nitrogen hypoxia execution would be conducted by placing a mask over the inmate's nose and mouth and then replacing the breathing air with nitrogen. The nitrogen will be administered for 15 minutes or 5 minutes following a flatline indication on the EKG, whichever is longer. So you just put a gas mask on them. It's interesting. The panel of experts who made the UN statement Friday is made up of, let's see here, Morris Tidball Ben, special rapporteur on extrajudicial summary or arbitrary executions. Alice Edwards, special rapporteur on. Oh, who cares about the panel of UN people? So anyway, this is something the Kansas City Chiefs fans does. That'd be an interesting deal. But anyway, so that is the UN's concerns. Don't worry, there's a part two to this. Let's roll that one right now. Um, where'd he go? Sorry. Boom, boom. Why didn't that go? Oh, sure. This time instead. I'm not used to the colors. Apologize. Um, why are you going up? There it is. That's not what I want. There we go. Been a while since I've done just videos. So don't forget to tell me how bad I suck in the comments. And also subscribe for more suckitude in the future. This and members usually will get these 24 hours before they go public, but this doesn't have time to wait as the execution is set for tomorrow. Now look at this. Nitrogen gas leak fears grow before Kenneth Smith's execution. Alabama is set to carry out the nation's first execution via nitrogen hypoxia this week, but critics are warning of the dangers to those in and outside the execution chamber if the gas leaks. The humanity. Oh, Kenneth Eugene Smith, 58, is scheduled to be executed Thursday as he was one of two men convicted in 88 murder for hire slaying. Smith's attorneys are asking courts to block the execution, arguing that Alabama's bid to execute Smith after botching an earlier attempt using lethal injection violates the United States Constitution ban on cruel and unusual punishment. That one's been tried before, and it does not. A federal judge rejected Smith's request to stop the execution earlier this month, and the case will most likely end up before the U.S. Supreme Court, which has been unwilling to stop executions at the last minute in recent years. Yeah, now this article came out today, a few hours ago. Hate to tell him this. Court's not going to take this up. According to Alabama's protocol, a face mask will be placed over Smith's nose and mouth to replace breathable air with pure nitrogen, depriving him of oxygen. So the guy, it's going to be whippets. The guy's going to, he's going to get a high. The protocol says the nitrogen gas would be administered for 15 minutes or 5 minutes following flatline indication of the EKG, whichever is longer. Alabama Solicitor General Edmund LaCour told federal appeals court judges on Friday that nitrogen hypoxia is the most painless and humane method of execution known to man. In court filings, the state has said it would cause unconsciousness within seconds and cause death within minutes. But experts say that this will happen after the gas is administered. Smith remains to be seen. What will happen to the gas? Smith's spiritual advisor, the Reverend Jeff Hood, is resolved to be in the execution chamber when Smith is put to death, despite fearing that his life could be in danger in the event of a leak. He has been speaking with Smith daily since November. This is so theatrical. I'm going to be a matter of feet from Kenny. Put a Y on the end of somebody's name, and all of a sudden they become your best friend. And we have fought very hard to secure that right. And we certainly aren't going to give it up just because there's a new form of execution, Hood told Newsweek. If there is a leak, there is no doubt that it will be dangerous, if not deadly, for everybody in the room. Alabama prison officials have required Hood to sign a waiver to be in the execution chamber and commit to staying 3 feet away from Smith. To somewhat minimize his risk, Hood sent a letter to the Alabama Department of Corrections on January 15th, which Newsweek reviewed, demanding certain safeguards be in place during the execution. They include the presence of oxygen monitoring meters in the execution chamber, the presence of independent paramedics outside the execution chamber, and the presence of ambulances at the closest possible exit. Hood said he has received no response about whether any of his demands would be met. Well, it's not a demand if you're still going to end up there, you're not demanding anything. You're just talking. Newsweek reached out to the Alabama Department of Corrections to comment through its website. It's almost as if they want to pressure me not to go in. We are trying to do everything we can to keep that reverend out of this chamber. Government doesn't work that way. There's either a yes or a no when it comes down to it. And if they say no, he won't go in. They say yes, he will go in. There's no pressure. We're not pressuring you. They want to leave so much uncertainty that I will be too afraid to go in. I can assure you that's not going to happen. So brave, so strong. Let's see. I just screwed all that up. I just shot through it. Oh, wow. For me, it's too big of a risk with regards to my faith to not do it. Yeah, the guy killed a reverend's wife. Let's talk about faith. I'm trying not to be scared, but it's an incredibly dangerous moment. Hopefully, you're right with God, Reverend. I'm trying to be there for Kenny in the midst of having to worry about all these things for myself and my family. In an op ed published on Sunday on AL.com, Hood called on Alabama Governor Kay Ivey to join him in the execution chamber. I am not going in. Hey, listen, you don't have to go in there, bud. Okay. So I don't have to go in there either. I'm not doing it. Reverend, stop. Let's see how sure they are that this is safe, he said. Newsweek reached out to the governor's office for comment via email. Well, I assure you, much like my email, don't get to it. Dr. Joel Zivat, a professor of anesthesiology at Emory University and expert on lethal injections, said the risks to those in the execution chamber and witness room are unknown. We don't know exactly how much nitrogen gas will be flowing, he told Newsweek. We do know that nitrogen gas is odorless and colorless and non noxious, so there will be no way of knowing where the nitrogen was leaking. No, but as soon as people start falling over, you'll know there's a leak. The idea that an execution should put anybody in the vicinity at risk is unprecedented and unlawful. It is unlawful. I've read a lot of law in my time. I've never seen a law against that. Zivit said. It speaks to a very poorly done, as per usual, Alabama execution plan. Alabama, your execution plans are poor. I mean, is this real? Is this even real? A leak of nitrogen gas could also prolong the execution. There's a chance Smith may not die or he may die slowly. Zivit's concerns prompted him to co author a United Nations complaint. I'm going to complain to the UN, he said, that led to experts appointed by the UN Human Rights Council to accuse Alabama of rushing ahead with an experimental method that would likely violate the prohibition on torture. I tell you what, I've accused Alabama of a lot of stuff. Every year we play them in football, I'm accusing them of stuff. But nobody's answering my calls. Maybe I needed to contact the United Nations. I need some blue helmets down in Alabama. They got a term for that down there. Like the store, Target. Smith is worried that the execution on Thursday, like the previous attempt to kill in November, could go wrong. I am worried that he was. I'm worried that we have told Alabama that these risks could happen, will happen, just like we warned them last year. He said in written responses to New York Times. Oh boy, I'll tell you. You know what? Alabama loves that New York Times. You go ahead and write some more for the New York Times. We are from New York and we are here to help you in Alabama. And they will do nothing to prevent these dangers from happening. Alabama will do nothing. I told the New York Times. I told the New York Times Alabama will do nothing. And Alabama doesn't care. Hood also said that Smith has been regularly vomiting as his execution nears. Maybe you should give him some, I don't know, Pepto Bismol. Kenny is just so sick. He's throwing up and he can't even talk on the phone. I guess they have phones in prison now. I think that we are going to witness a horror show. Ziva said that that creates the risk that Smith could choke to death on his vomit. Well, you know, a lot of rock stars have done that. Look at you, Janis Joplin. Imagine lying on your back and vomiting into a mask and what that would be like so you could choke, not be able to breathe, he said. I choked last night on a green bean. Why worry about that? He says Smith's symptoms persist. Oh, he'd be too sick to be executed. Too sick to be executed. Oh, wait a second. Watch this. They have to do a flu test on him. I bet if he shows positive for the pandemic bug, he probably can't be executed. Oh, I have no doubt that if this is successful in Alabama, we're going to see this all over the country. California's lining up right now. He said if it doesn't go well or if it isn't successful, then there's very real risk to me. The same for Kenny Powers. If it If it's not successful, he's going to experience an unbelievable amount of pain, but I think it could save other guys who are behind him. Remember, he's been in prison for 30 years. There's been a lot of guys behind him. Mississippi and Oklahoma have authorized nitrogen hypoxia as an execution method, but have never used it to carry out a death sentence. The legislatures in other states having difficulty obtaining lethal injection drugs could move to approve this method. Although it seems increasingly likely that Smith's execution will go ahead, Hood said that there is still some hope. He joined demonstrators gathered outside the Alabama Capitol in Montgomery on Tuesday, urging the governor to halt the execution. They will also gather for vigils outside the prison in Atmore, as well as in Montgomery, Birmingham, and other cities on Thursday. So, there we go. Old Kenny's gonna go to sleep. This is a tragedy, okay? This is a tragedy. We're allowed to laugh at stupidity, though. And all the ruckus about this is just, it's weird. It's very weird. So anyway, guys, if you've stuck around this long, please make sure you're subscribed, hit that thumbs up, turn on the notifications. Oh, wait a second. I need to make sure that, oh yeah, here you guys go. There's my copyright disclaimer. I want you to know that I do know how that works, by the way. And yeah, you shouldn't listen to me because I'm an idiot. That's what that says. So please take all those things to heart. And don't forget Friday nights here, 9 p.m. Friday Night Live. We have a good time. Nobody's wearing pants because pants are prison. Not in Alabama prison though. The Fed was it Fed Med? Like the Club Med? I don't know. Anyway, guys, thank you for coming here, hanging out, chilling out, um, and listening to my nonsense as we get through another thing. Please check out Death Penalty Debates, Steve Gosney's book covering the subject, and you can get that at stevegosney.com. And I don't make any money on that. He's just a friend of mine. I do dig the guy. He's very smart. Probably one of the brightest brains I've ever talked to, and I'm honored every time I get it to listen to him. That being said, everybody, be safe. Watch out for people like Kenny.
Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop. And then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got her. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.